I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here we are. Working at Thompson and Mayer Marketing wasn't supposed to be anything special, just another corporate job with decent pay and reasonable hours. The office itself is nothing remarkable. Open floor plan, too much fluorescent lighting, and the constant hum of keyboards and hushed conversations. But something happened there that changed everything for me, and it involves my coworker, Alex. Alex Whitman joined our team about 7 months ago as a senior graphic designer. From day one, there was something magnetic about him. Tall with dark hair that always looked perfectly messy, as if he'd just run his hands through it in frustration over a design that wasn't working. He had this way of concentrating so intensely on his work that his brow would furrow, creating this little line between his eyebrows. And when he'd finally solve whatever problem he was tackling, his entire face would light up with the most genuine smile. I should mention that Alex is straight. At least, that's what everyone assumed, myself included. He occasionally mentioned ex-girlfriends in passing, had a photo of himself with a woman I presumed was a former partner on his desk, and just carried himself with that effortless heterosexual confidence that straight men seem to possess. You know the type, never questioning if a space is safe for them, never worrying about how they're perceived when they speak or move or exist. I, on the other hand, came out years ago. It's not something I broadcast at work, but I don't hide it either. My desk has a small pride flag pen holder, and I've mentioned my ex-boyfriend in casual conversation. The office is generally progressive, so it's never been an issue. But it does create a certain boundary, an invisible line between myself and coworkers like Alex. A line I never expected would blur, let alone be crossed. Over the months working together, Alex and I developed a comfortable rapport. We were often assigned to the same projects, his design skills complementing my copywriting, and we'd spend hours brainstorming concepts or refining campaigns. I noticed myself looking forward to our meetings, lingering a bit longer at his desk when discussing projects, finding excuses to send him messages asking for input on work that probably didn't need his opinion. I told myself it was just professional admiration. Alex was talented, and I appreciated having someone who matched my own work ethic and creative standards. But deep down, I knew there was more to it. The flutter in my stomach when he'd lean over my shoulder to look at my computer screen, the way I'd catch myself staring at his hands as he sketched concepts, how I'd replay our conversations later at home. These weren't the reactions of someone who merely respected a colleague. But I kept these feelings locked away, convinced they were one-sided and potentially problematic. Office romances are complicated enough without adding the apparent straight/gay dynamic to the mix. So I maintained my professional distance, allowing myself the occasional daydream, but never expecting anything to come of it. Let me tell you about the day everything changed. It was a Thursday in late October. The office was preparing for a major client presentation the following week, and tension was running high. I'd been at my desk since 7 that morning, trying to perfect the copy for our pitch. By evening, most people had left, but a few dedicated souls remained, Alex and I among them. The previous few weeks had been different between us. There had been moments, small, almost imperceptible shifts in our interactions that made me wonder if I was imagining things. Like how Alex had started finding reasons to touch me, a hand on my shoulder when laughing at a joke, our fingers brushing when he'd hand me a coffee, sitting just a little too close during meetings so our knees would occasionally bump under the table. There was also a change in how he looked at me. I'd catch him watching me sometimes when he thought I wasn't aware, his expression unreadable. And our conversations had begun to extend beyond work, venturing into personal territory, childhood memories, future aspirations, philosophical debates about life and happiness. We'd started texting outside of work hours too, nothing flirtatious, just sharing memes or articles we thought the other would enjoy. I convinced myself I was reading too much into it. Alex was probably just a naturally tactile person who was becoming more comfortable around me as our friendship grew. The alternative seemed too improbable to consider. That Thursday night, around 9, I finally finished the copy I'd been working on. The office was nearly empty by then, just the distant sound of the cleaning crew and the occasional ping of a late-night email arriving. I packed up my things, exhaustion settling into my bones after the 14-hour day. As I was shutting down my computer, Alex appeared beside my desk, startling me. "Sorry," he said with a soft laugh. "Didn't mean to scare you. You heading out?" I nodded, trying to ignore how good he looked even after a full day of work. His sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that spoke of regular gym visits. His tie loosened around his neck. Yeah, finally finished the Henderson pitch. My brain is completely fried, I replied, stifling a yawn. Same here, Alex said, running a hand through his hair in that way that always made my stomach tighten. I'm parked in the garage too. I'll walk you in. It wasn't an unusual offer. The office building's parking garage was dimly lit and eerily empty at that hour. Colleagues often walked together for safety. But something in Alex's tone made this offer feel different. There was an undercurrent of something I couldn't quite identify. Sure. Thanks, I said, slinging my bag over my shoulder. We rode the elevator down in comfortable silence, both too tired for small talk. The main lobby was deserted except for the night security guard, who nodded as we passed. The hallway leading to the parking garage was long and narrow, lined with beige walls and fluorescent lights that flickered occasionally. Not exactly the setting for a romantic encounter. As we walked, Alex asked about my weekend plans, and I mentioned a new exhibit at the Modern Art Museum I was planning to visit. That sounds interesting, he said. I've been meaning to check that place out since I moved here, but haven't gotten around to it. I hesitated for a moment before saying, well, you're welcome to join if you want. It's supposed to be pretty amazing, interactive light installations and such. Alex glanced at me, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. I might take you up on that. We continued walking, and I became acutely aware of how close he was. Our shoulders occasionally brushing, our footsteps falling into sync. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, and yet I found myself wishing it were longer. We were about halfway to the garage when it happened. Alex slowed his pace, then stopped completely. I took another step before realizing he wasn't beside me anymore and turned to face him, confused. Everything okay? I asked. Alex didn't respond immediately. He was looking at me with an intensity that made my heart race. Before I could ask again, he took a step toward me, then another, until I found myself backing up against the hallway wall, not out of fear, but some instinctive response to his approach. I need to tell you something, he said, his voice lower than usual, and I'm not sure how to say it. I was suddenly very aware of my own breathing, of the cool wall against my back, of Alex standing close enough that I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and subtle that I'd come to associate exclusively with him. You can tell me anything, I said, aiming for casual but hearing the slight tremor in my voice. Alex placed one hand on the wall beside my head, not exactly pinning me there, but definitely creating a sense of intimacy in that sterile hallway. His eyes searched mine, and I saw uncertainty there, but also determination. I can't stop thinking about you, he said finally. And not in a coworker way, not in a friend way. In a way that's driving me crazy because I've never felt this before, not with a man. The world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis. I'd imagined various scenarios between us, mostly harmless fantasies that I never expected to materialize, but nothing like this. Nothing so direct, so vulnerable. I don't understand, I said, because I genuinely didn't. You're straight. A small, almost sad smile crossed his face. That's what I always thought too. But lately, I'm not so sure. Or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's just you. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wondered if this was some elaborate joke, or if I'd actually fallen asleep at my desk and was dreaming the whole encounter. But Alex's presence felt too real, the warmth radiating from his body, the slight coffee scent on his breath, the way his eyes never left mine. Say something, he urged after my prolonged silence. I'm surprised, I managed. I've had feelings for you too, but I never thought. I didn't get to finish that sentence because Alex leaned in, hesitated for just a heartbeat, then pressed his lips against mine. The kiss was gentle at first, almost questioning, but when I responded, and God, did I respond, it deepened into something more urgent, more certain. His free hand came up to cup my face, and mine instinctively moved to his waist, pulling him closer. The rational part of my brain was screaming about workplace complications and sexual identity crises and all the ways this could go wrong, but it was drowned out by the overwhelming rightness of the moment. When we finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Alex rested his forehead against mine. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, he confessed. Why didn't you? I asked. Because I was terrified, not just of rejection, but of what it meant about me. I've spent 32 years thinking I knew who I was, what I wanted. And then you came along and suddenly everything I thought I knew about myself was up for question. I understood that fear all too well, having gone through my own coming out process years earlier. Identity isn't always as fixed as we think, I said softly. Sometimes we discover new parts of ourselves when we meet the right people. Alex pulled back slightly to look at me properly. I don't know what this means yet. I don't have all the answers about my sexuality or what happens next. But I do know that when I'm with you, everything feels clearer somehow. Like I've been looking at the world through a foggy window, and someone finally wiped it clean. The vulnerability in his admission touched something deep within me. It's rare to witness someone in the process of such profound self-discovery, rarer still to be the catalyst for it. We don't have to figure everything out tonight, I told him, reaching up to straighten his already loosened tie. A small, intimate gesture that felt both new and somehow familiar. We can take it slow, see where this goes. Alex nodded, relief evident in his expression. I'd like that. Then he smiled, that genuine, full-face smile that had first drawn me to him. Though I have to say, pushing you against a wall in the office hallway probably isn't the definition of taking it slow. I laughed, the tension of the moment breaking slightly. Maybe not, but I'm not complaining. We stood there for another moment, neither wanting to disrupt the bubble we'd created in that unremarkable hallway. Eventually, though, reality reasserted itself in the form of the night security guard's footsteps echoing from the lobby. We should probably get to our cars, I suggested reluctantly. Alex stepped back, allowing me space to move away from the wall, but he reached for my hand as we continued walking toward the garage. It was such a simple gesture, yet it felt monumental, this public acknowledgement of whatever was beginning between us. The drive home that night was surreal. I kept replaying the encounter in my mind, analyzing every word, every touch. Part of me worried that by morning, Alex would regret his confession, chalk it up to exhaustion or momentary confusion. Another part feared that even if he didn't regret it, navigating a relationship with someone still questioning their sexuality would be complicated at best, heartbreaking at worst. But despite these concerns, I couldn't suppress the hope blooming in my chest. There had been such honesty in Alex's words, such certainty in his kiss despite his uncertainty about everything else. The next day at work was interesting. We didn't arrive together, but Alex made a point of stopping by my desk with coffee, something he'd done before, but now carried new meaning. Our eyes met, and the slight smile he gave me confirmed that he hadn't woken up with regrets. We were professional during the day, conscious of being in a workplace, but there were moments, a lingering glance across the conference room, his hand brushing mine when we reviewed designs together, a text asking if I was free that evening, that kept the electricity between us alive. After work, we went to a quiet restaurant a few blocks from the office. Over dinner, Alex opened up more about his feelings and confusion. I've been attracted to women my whole life, he explained. So this thing with you, it threw me completely. At first, I thought maybe it was just admiration or friendship, but then I'd catch myself staring at your mouth when you talked or making excuses to be near you, and I knew it was something more. When did you know for sure? I asked, genuinely curious about his journey. Remember that happy hour last month? When you were telling that story about your disaster camping trip, and you were laughing so hard you couldn't get the words out. Something clicked for me then. I just thought, I want to make him laugh like that every day. And once I admitted that to myself, everything else started making sense. Why I couldn't stop thinking about you. Why I felt jealous when you mentioned going on a date a few weeks ago. I remembered that night, though I had no idea my camping misadventures had sparked such a revelation. So what now? Are you? Do you identify as bisexual, or? Alex shrugged. I honestly don't know yet. Maybe? Or maybe it's just you specifically. All I know is that I'm attracted to you, emotionally, physically, and I want to explore that, if you're willing. I reached across the table to take his hand. I'm definitely willing. The weeks that followed were a beautiful kind of chaos. We started spending most evenings together, cooking dinner at my apartment or his, watching movies, talking for hours about everything and nothing. The physical aspect of our relationship evolved naturally, with Alex approaching each new experience with a combination of nervousness and enthusiasm that was endearing. There were challenges, of course. Alex hadn't come out to his family or friends yet, which meant navigating social situations carefully. At work, we kept things professional, though a few observant colleagues definitely noticed the change in our dynamic. And occasionally, Alex would have moments of doubt or confusion about what this relationship meant for his identity. Conversations we worked through together with patience and understanding. But for every challenge, there were countless moments of joy and discovery. Watching Alex become more comfortable with himself, seeing him light up when he talked about us to the first friend he came out to, feeling our connection deepen beyond the initial attraction into something more substantial. These made every complicated conversation worth it. 3 months after that night in the hallway, Alex told me he loved me for the first time. We were at my apartment, nothing special about the evening, just cooking dinner together, some music playing softly in the background. He was chopping vegetables while I stirred something on the stove, and he just looked up and said it, simple and certain. "I love you," he said, as if commenting on the weather. I thought you should know. I nearly dropped the wooden spoon I was holding. Not because I was surprised by the feeling. I'd suspected we were heading there for weeks, but because of the ease with which he said it. No hesitation, no qualification, just pure emotion. "I love you too," I replied, and the smile that spread across his face made my heart ache with happiness. Later that night, as we lay together talking about the future, Alex confessed something else. "You know, I used to worry that loving you meant losing part of myself, the identity I'd built for 32 years. But now I realize it's the opposite. Loving you has helped me find parts of myself I never knew were missing." That sentiment captures the essence of our journey together. What started as an unexpected encounter against a hallway wall has evolved into the most authentic relationship I've ever experienced. Alex continues to explore and understand his sexuality on his own terms, sometimes using the label bisexual, sometimes preferring not to label it at all. What matters isn't the category, but the connection we've built. I think about that night in the hallway often, how a single moment of courage changed both our lives. If Alex hadn't taken that risk, if he'd continued walking me to my car without saying anything, we might still be circling each other in a dance of unspoken feelings and missed opportunities. It reminds me that the most meaningful connections often require vulnerability, require stepping into uncertainty with only hope to guide you. Alex took that step when he stopped me against that wall, when he chose honesty over comfort. And every day since, we've both been choosing to continue that journey together, discovering new aspects of ourselves through each other's eyes, creating a relationship that defies easy categorization but feels undeniably right. Love doesn't always arrive in expected packages or follow the narratives we're taught to anticipate. Sometimes it appears in office hallways after hours, in the form of a supposedly straight coworker finding the courage to question everything he thought he knew about himself. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that unexpected beginning leads to the most authentic love story you could imagine, one written not according to society's expectations, but to the truth of your own heart. As for Alex and me, we're still writing our story, one day at a time. The hallway moment wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The first page of what I hope will be a very long book. And whatever chapters come next, I'm grateful for that October night when my straight coworker offered to walk me in, stopped me against the hallway wall, and changed both our lives forever. Total _char_count. 18,863.